Alright guys, so I know I'm a little bit late to the Fallout New Vegas party, the game having launched around about December last year, I believe. But I don't care. It's relatively new to me, and I've got things to say about it, so I am going to. So, first a little bit of background information. I played the hell out of Fallout 3. I got it on launch back in 2008 for the Xbox 360, and I played the absolute ever-loving shit out of it. I finished every single quest in the entire game, including all of the DLC, and I played over 200 hours with about 12 different characters. So, Fallout New Vegas already has some pretty big boots to fill. I've also played a lot of the first two Fallouts for the PC, and those left a very good impression on me as well, so this is going to be not only a comparison between Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, but also a look at how well Fallout New Vegas holds up to the pre-existing Fallout legacy, as it were. So, right off the bat, one of the first things that really struck me about New Vegas was how much more like the original games this one was. During character creation, this was a really simple one, but it meant a lot to me because it was really cool to see this again. During character creation, you set your special, you set your name, you set your physical appearance, you set all that boring stuff. But then you also have a choice of traits, which are basically, for those who don't know, they're essentially perks from Fallout 3, except they always have a negative side effect, and they're designed more accurately to represent kind of little personality quirks. So you'll have things like Steady Hand, which drops your rate of fire by 20% but increases your accuracy by 20%. There's one that's the exact opposite of that. There's one of my favorites, which is, I believe it's called Nearsighted, where if you're not wearing glasses, you get a -1 to perception. If you are wearing glasses, you get a +1 to perception, which is a really cool one because glasses are easy to find, and you can just throw them on and not worry about them and get a boost to perception. And the game won a lot of points right off the bat for me with that, and that may seem a little bit shallow, but sometimes the little things are what make it count. And so, apart from just the traits, the setting also harkens back to the original two Fallouts quite a bit, in that it's set in roughly the same location as Fallout 2 and bits of Fallout 1. It's also much more directly intertwined to the overarching story of the first two Fallout games. Of course, because it is set in basically the same location. With the location shift comes a shift in some of the visual stylings of the game. You have a much more kind of ritzy Vegas, really, which is fitting. More Vegas style, glitz and glamour sort of feel to the entire world in the main hub. And then on the outer lying portions, you have a lot more smaller settlements. You don't have as many big towns as you did in Fallout 3. Like, Fallout 3 had Megaton, it had Rivet City, it had the trade center that I can't remember the name of right now for some reason, that's kind of up into the upright. You had Paradise something, which is where all the slavers were, way up north. You had Tenpenny Tower, which was essentially a gigantic city of rich people. In New Vegas, you have plenty of towns, but they're usually a lot smaller and almost tribal in their feel. They don't really feel as structured as they were in Fallout 3. And this is to the game's benefit, I believe, because the really overly structured towns in Fallout 3 were a little bit confusing, if only because the game was supposed to depict an absolute social anarchy. The setting also brings about a lot of different scenery. The Mojave Wasteland is a very different place than the Capital Wasteland because the West Coast is a very different place than the East Coast. So you're going to have a lot more big, rugged canyons and deep rivers and flowing waterfalls and big rocky mountains, as opposed to the Capital Wasteland, which was mostly made of rolling hills and gentle ravines. There are some visual differences too. taking from the story cue that Vegas was never actually directly hit by a nuclear bomb during the war that started this entire Fallout mythos. Um, there are a lot more buildings standing. New Vegas itself is relatively untouched. All the buildings are in very, very nice shape. You find a lot more clean water, like running water that is pure. You won't get irradiated if you drink it. So you can actually like swim in the water and not turn into a four-armed demon creature. The sky is blue, and this seems like a silly point to bring up, but in Fallout 3 the sky was gray because of the radiation, I suppose, and the environments were pretty gray and kind of green, actually. Fallout 3's color was green. Fallout 3 was very happy with green, and a lot of its towns felt sort of green, if this makes any sense at all. Green and gray. Fallout New Vegas likes orange. It likes orange a lot. The Mojave Wasteland, and in fact that region in the United States, has a lot of orange naturally occurring in the landscapes and the ground and everything. And this is really cool because, as some of you know, orange is blue's complement. So when you have this blue sky contrasting with this orange terrain, it creates this really cool visual distinction and makes the outside world that much more appealing to actually be a part of. Actually, directly as a result, I have found myself never using fast travel in New Vegas, which is a big deal because I fast traveled all over the place in Fallout 3 and in Oblivion as well. But there's something more inviting about the Mojave Wasteland, and it has a lot to do with what I've been rambling about this entire time, the blue sky, the orange terrain, and the clean water. It feels more alive, and as a result, it feels like there's more to see, even if that's not necessarily the case from a gameplay standpoint. I've just found that I have the greater sense of discovery ambling about the Mojave than I did about the capital. Really, the thing about New Vegas is that it's essentially Fallout 3 again, with improvements and a couple of drawbacks in a few places. Now, some people might say that Fallout 3 again is just kind of a cheap way for them to milk the series for all it's worth, but the thing you gotta know is that Fallout 3 again is a pretty damn awesome thing. Fallout 3 was fantastic, and if I could have Fallout 3 with improvements and play that instead, I certainly would, and in fact, I certainly am. The mechanics of the game have been significantly tweaked, in that aiming without VATS doesn't feel really clunky and inaccurate and stupid. I have actually been able to take a pistol and aim and take something out at range, like you would be able to do with a pistol, without having to rely on VATS as much. You still have it, it's still an option, and it's still very effective and very visually appealing, but you don't need it anymore, like it felt that you did in Fallout 3. I know that's not necessarily the case, but aiming has been greatly improved in New Vegas, and as a result, the combat flows a lot nicer, and the entire game benefits from it. Melee attacks, I have been told, I've read, I've never done it because I don't use melee weapons in Fallout, because bringing a knife to a gunfight is as terrible an idea as it sounds. Every single melee weapon type has its own unique finishing move, like a special move that you can do if your melee weapon skill is high enough. I am told these are pretty awesome. I haven't actually seen it myself, so I can't really comment on it past knowing that they exist. There are some tweaks to the leveling up and the experience scale. I found that I level up quite a bit more in New Vegas than I did in Fallout 3, although that's probably because I'm not fast traveling all over the place. The level cap is 30, I think. I know it's not 20 anymore. And yes, I know that you could increase the level cap in Fallout 3 with the expansion set, but that expansion sucked. And it was stupid and dumb, and I'm not going to talk about it anymore. So you level up to 30, but they've changed how perks work, in that you don't get one every level anymore. Instead, you get one every even-numbered level. So, levels 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, blah, 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 you get a perk, which sounds kind of like a detriment, because When you compare it, that's 20 perks in Fallout 3 to 15 perks in Fallout New Vegas. But what that's actually doing is it's making you really think about what perks you want. In Fallout 3, what would happen is I wouldn't want any of the stupid perks for like 5 levels in. And so for the first 5 levels, I always picked intensive training, which lets you increase one of your stats by 1 point. And so I would just increase my base stats, and then I'd get like one perk that actually was helpful, and then ignore the rest of them, and just have a bunch of repeated perks. In New Vegas, because you get them every other level, and because you get less in the long run, you have to really think about which ones you want. So I picked intensive training once in New Vegas for my first level up, because that's what I always do. And then after that, I made sure that I branched out and took perks that actually would really affect the way I played the game and really change the way my character interacts with the world around him. And it feels like a much more fulfilling experience when you know that you have slightly less to work with. There's also you also get perks in another method in New Vegas. You can still get them through quests. The occasional quest will still give you a perk. In addition, every single party member in the entire game in New Vegas gives you a perk so long as they are alive and in your party. So you have an iBot named EDE, or Eddie, I think you're supposed to pronounce it, who has this perk he gives you called like Extended Sensors, which allows you to target invisible enemies in VATS, which is extremely useful when you're fighting Nightkin. Raoul, the ghoul, has a maintenance perk, which I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure it makes your weapons and armor degrade at a slower rate, and he can repair things really well. Every character has their own perk, so you can get them that way. You can still get them through quests, like I said, but you can also get them through in-game achievements. So, like, I got this really good one recently. I got the Lord Death perk, which I got for killing 200 anything. You can get, like... there was one for killing a bunch of bugs, and that increases your damage against insects. There's one for killing a bunch of like people, and that increases your damage against people. There's one for super mutants. There's one for ghouls. There's one for everything, which is Lord Death. There are perks for... There are things for pretty much everything. Everything you do gets recorded by this game, and more often than not, everything you do will be rewarded at some point. And so it's a really cool way to give you more cool stuff while keeping its thought-provoking level-up system. And that sounds really, really, really dorky, but just roll with it. They've made some tweaks to how the crafting things works. You no longer have to buy formulas for crafting. You can make pretty much everything in the game right off the bat. And there's a lot more to make. Oh my god. You can make custom ammo, you can recycle your own ammo, you can overcharge your energy weapon ammo, you can build tons of different items. There's an entirely new skill called Survival that's all about cooking and preparing things you found in the wasteland. Like, my guy, if I find a gecko hide and a bottle of turpentine, and I go to a fireplace, I can tan the gecko hide and make it worth more when I eventually sell it. I can make stim packs, which is a huge deal, by getting an empty syringe, a Brock flower, and a Xander root, and mixing them, and voila, I have another stim pack. And stim packs are expensive in New Vegas, so that's a very good thing. And all this new crafting is very important for the biggest edition and my favorite part of New Vegas, hardcore mode. Hardcore mode is an extra setting completely separate of the difficulty level that changes drastically the way you have to play Fallout New Vegas, and I really wish that Fallout 3 had this option. If it did, I would be much more inclined to go back to that game and play it some more, even though I've already beaten everything in it. What hardcore mode does is... Let's see if I can get the entire list out. Healing items heal damage over time instead of all at once. Ammunition has weight. You get tired, you get thirsty, and you get hungry. So you have to eat, you have to sleep, and you have to drink, or else you'll get various levels of dehydration, starvation, and tiredness, until eventually, if any of those 3 meters maxes out, you die instantly. Stim packs can no longer heal broken limbs, only doctor's bags can, which really changes how you play the game. Once you realize that a broken limb is in fact a horrible, horrible, horrible situation in hardcore mode, you are very careful about jumping off of high things and fighting big, burly melee enemies. Super mutants in particular get a lot scarier once you realize how damaging a broken limb can be. And a lot of people seem to think that these restrictions just exist to make the game more difficult, but I disagree. The game does become more difficult, but for all the right reasons. Playing on hardcore mode has made Fallout New Vegas one of the most unique experiences I have ever had in the modern generation, and in fact any generation. Having to play a character with basic human needs really pulls out on the survival aspects of this post-apocalyptic RPG, and really allows me to get into the RP part of the RPG, the role-playing aspects. I've noticed that I care a lot more about my character's well-being now that he has to eat, now that he has to sleep, now that he has to drink, now that he can be seriously injured. And you start to play more careful. You start to value skills besides combat skills. So, jeez. So, like, speech, in particular. Speech is really, really important in hardcore mode, because you can bypass a lot of encounters just by talking. Well, smooth talking. Survival, extremely important skill. Allows you to cook your food, remove its negative side effects for eating it raw, and get a lot more hunger reduction out of it. Medical skills, science skills, basically all the skills that a lot of people seemed to ignore, or at least that I seemed to ignore in Fallout 3, really come to the forefront in hardcore mode on New Vegas. And you have to start really thinking about what you're going to do next. I found myself planning my route through the Mojave Wasteland. If I need to get somewhere, I will usually, instead of going in a straight beeline like I will in Fallout 3, I will try and kind of pinball between various destinations and rest stops, so I can make sure I never run out of one particular thing on the way. Healing becomes, knowing when to heal becomes, and knowing when to get out of a fight becomes very important in hardcore mode, because, as I said before, stim packs do not heal instantly. Nothing heals instantly anymore. So, they heal very slowly, too. They heal, I think it's like, at my current medical level, they heal 7 hit points over a duration of like 20-something seconds, which is not a lot. Or maybe I have that backwards. It equals out to about the same thing, but it's not a lot, and it's not very fast. So what I found is, if I think I'm going to start taking a lot of damage, I will use a stim pack when I'm only at about half health, and then start backing away and finding cover, planning my shots carefully, making sure that I'm not going to fall over dead in the middle of a firefight because I didn't plan this out correctly. Sneak is extremely important. I've always played a sneaky character. Fallout 3 and Oblivion, I loved the rogue type. Getting into places you're not supposed to be in, it opens a lot of avenues for gameplay options that are not normally there. But I found myself using it more so now for sneak attacks. Sneak attacks are a godsend in hardcore mode because they allow you to get the edge on a group of enemies before they can do anything to stop you. So if you get behind, like, say, a group of legionaries in Caesar's Legion, which I'll talk about in a little bit, and you can queue up a bunch of headshots from behind while sneaking in VATS, you can take out the entire group before they know you're there, save yourself a bunch of ammo, a lot of stim packs, and a lot of grief, and probably a few broken limbs, which equates to a few hundred caps if you want to get those repaired by a doctor. The entire game just, it feels more complete because of hardcore mode, and I honestly, I could not ever foresee myself turning this mode off, ever. If there was ever a reason for me to recommend Fallout New Vegas, it would definitely be so you could experience hardcore mode. Playing Fallout 3, it's not enough to understand why New Vegas is such a good game. You really do need to give it a shot, and the game's a lot cheaper nowadays, too. I believe in the United States, at least, it's manufacturer suggested retail price, its MSRP, is $20. And that goes for pretty much anywhere. So you could go to like a GameStop and buy this game for $20, and if you don't like it, you're only out $20. It's not a $60 game anymore, so it's worth the risk. The second reason I would recommend New Vegas is the story. Now, this is going to get into a little bit of spoiler territory, so if you don't want any of this information, mostly Fallout 3 spoilers, not so much Fallout New Vegas spoilers, but a lot of Fallout 3 spoilers. So if you have not finished the main quest in Fallout 3, and you don't want to hear how stupid the ending is, stop the video now, and just remember that I'm telling you to buy New Vegas. Do it. If you don't already own it, do it. No, that's out of the way. The plot in Fallout 3 was absolutely abysmal. Actually, no, I'm going to take that back. The ending to Fallout 3 was absolutely abysmal. The plot was okay. It really falls apart towards the end, but at the beginning, it starts off really well. You are born. That's your character creation. That was pretty cool. That was one of the best intros to anything ever. And then as the game goes on, it's got a pretty decent curve. It's got a nice structure. It's got some really good climactic battles. But towards the end, it's just silly. And the ending in particular is just so nonsense. Like, the first two Fallout games had these really big, really cool endings that detailed every single little thing you ever did in your trip through the wasteland and how it affected everyone. And in Fallout 3, it has, like, little flashcards that show a few key quests you did here and there. Basically, it really only focuses on whether or not you blow up or save Megaton in the quest The Power of the Atom. And a couple of other really small ones here and there, like who you give Project Purity to, who you side with on the struggle and everything. And it's just shallow. Like, it's only got two outcomes for the ending. Either you're a dick or you're a good guy. And I felt cheated by the end of that game. And I was warned several times about this, all over the place. People telling me this ending is terrible, this ending is terrible, this ending is terrible. And you know what? I went with it anyway because I figured it can't be as bad as everyone says. And oh my god, they were right. The end of that game is crap. And spoiler alert, as I've already said, spoiler alert, you die at the end, or you don't die and the game ends anyway. And for the record, the don't die option is the bad option. Don't choose the don't die option or everyone's going to call you a big dick and stick their tongue out at you and shun you and they won't eat lunch with you anymore. But it's just so bad. Oh, it pissed me off. I got really frustrated by it. And then I played New Vegas. Now, Fallout 3's plot is extremely linear. It's got basically one path through the entire thing with some extremely minor deviation at the very end. Oblivion did the same thing. It's a kind of a flaw of Bethesda's games where their main story is kind of crap, but like all the rest of the game is awesome. Well, New Vegas, its main quest is awesome. Almost immediately, I would say like a quarter of the way through the main quest, you are thrust with the decision to either side with one of three major factions: the New California Republic, the good guys; Mr. House, New Vegas, kind of the neutral option; and Caesar's Legion, the club baby seals enslave humanity bad guys. Like, they're that comically evil. Or you could ignore all of them, take New Vegas by storm, rule the entire place yourself, and have complete dominion over the Mojave Wasteland. All four of those are totally viable options, and there are smaller sub-options in those four options. So if you take Caesar's Legion, it branches off in a couple of different directions. If you take the New California Republic, it branches off in a couple of different directions. If you follow with Mr. House, that branches off in a couple of different directions too. If you choose to do your own thing, it branches off all over the place because it's your own thing. And it all ties out very nicely together with some very, very distinct closure towards the end in the final battle at the Hoover Dam. And the entire time, I was grabbed by the story. I wanted to play the main quest, which is something that never happens to me in Bethesda's games for the most part. I always do. Like in Oblivion, I was like, oh, I guess I should do the main quest. I could use the experience. That was seriously my entire thing. I wanted the cool stuff. In Fallout 3, it was like, I'll just do it, because why not? In New Vegas, like, I'm going to do this because it's awesome, because I want to see what happens. And I found myself wondering the entire time, like, what would happen if I had done something differently. And a game that makes you think about your own actions and reflect on them is a really good game in my book. The entire thing, it feels better. Like, that's kind of a lame way to put it, but it feels a lot better than Fallout 3 did. In every single way. There's really no reason at all to purchase Fallout 3 over New Vegas unless you're really strapped for cash and you need to save $10. Because they're the same price now, new. But, Jesus Christ, I've been rambling on for this for almost half an hour now. So, I'm going to tie this up. Basically, you need to buy Fallout New Vegas. If you own a system that can run it, if you've got a PC that can handle it, if you have an Xbox 360, if you have a PS3, if you enjoyed Oblivion at all, if you liked Fallout 3 at all, if you liked the first two Fallouts at all, if you haven't played any of those, and you just really like RPGs, Western RPGs, not Japanese RPGs, Western RPGs, like, I have to really stress that, buy Fallout New Vegas. Find some way to play this game. It is it's my second favorite modern RPG. It falls behind Oblivion, but I only like Oblivion more for some personal reasons that I don't want to get into. It's such a good game. It's such a good experience. It's buggy. This has been known for a while. It's not nearly as bad as it used to be. Basically, to countermand the bugs, just save a lot. Every time you finish a step for a quest, save. Every hour, save. If you don't have it set to autosave, set it to autosave, and then save some more, because it will crash at really random times. But that's not necessarily the game's fault. That's just those are bugs, and bugs always happen. Fallout New Vegas has more than some other games, but less than some as well. In fact, the critically acclaimed Mass Effect happens to have several dozen more bugs than Fallout New Vegas does, and that should say a lot. So, yeah. Thanks for listening to me completely aimlessly ramble for about a half an hour about a game that's almost a year old. This is Blitz. This is Blitz's Game Talk, and I will talk to you guys next time.